All right, good evening, Trinidad and Tobago, and to the rest of the world. It's me again, Chetwayo, on the board of Chetwayo's Fitness Enterprise, your holistic health and fitness expert. So we are here yet again for another episode as we dive into health topics and we all be edified and familiarize ourselves with proper nutritional and health practices. All right, so as we are continuing, we will be continuing on this series that we are currently doing with regards to nutrition and the link between nutrition and mental health. Last week, we were looking at some stuff. We were looking back at some nutrients, the vitamin D's and so forth. All right, and we are going to continue there. But what I want to move off of, just to deviate a little, is to, of course, when I share my screen with you all and share from a particular article from a study actually that was done in the past. And, a lot of people don't reference behavior to mental health issues. We just think that people behave a particular way based on their upbringing, right? And it's sad to see that we live in a time where we don't connect food with health, right? Food and health, especially when it comes to mental health, we separate them, and we separate them in such a drastic manner that it's scary. It's scary. And I find it to be very scary because it just doesn't have a small part to play in mental health. It plays a major part. Your nutrition plays a huge role with regards to your mental health. So much so that I would say with a high degree of confidence that certain mental health issues cannot happen unless you have a nutritional deficiency first, right? Certain mental states you cannot get into unless you have a nutritional deficiency first, right? And we need to understand this. So I would try to share my screen with you all so that we would look into and we would read an article that was published, it was made available since 2016. This is from a study that was done back in 2013. All right, so of course, when I share information, what you will always see is that my information comes from credible sites. All right, I like to make sure and get information from credible sites because I don't want people to say, oh, this guy is just pushing and promoting a particular narrative from all sorts of, uncredible, uncredible sources. All right. So we know this site, we're familiar with this site. This is one of the top governmental sites for the US with regards to medicine, the National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology Information, right? PMC, PubMed Central, right? So look at this topic here. Adolescence, does good nutrition equal good behavior? Does good nutrition equal good behavior? So we will go through and we would read through this. We'll read through this article, all right? And we would try to see what it's saying, what was tested, and what took place. So it said adolescence is often associated with exploring boundaries, rapid growth, hormones, and pimples. A stable feature of this turbulent age is that these young people are highly overrepresented in the criminal justice system. Adolescents account for disproportionate proportion of police recorded crimes. And this seems to be a cross-cultural phenomenon. So basically, it's just simply saying that adolescents make up the vast majority of crimes that are taking place in a society. And, many people would say because we know that a lot of people like to say this happening in Black cultures, but as it says here, it's cross-cultural. So it's across the board, all ethnicities, all groups. It's across the board that adolescents get themselves more involved in crime or criminal offenses than adults, right? So that is something that we need to be mindful of. So we need to start paying closer attention to such. So let me continue with this. Furthermore, all right, let me share back my screen with you all so you all would follow with me, all right? So you would follow with me here. So it says, furthermore, disaffected young people often have limited routine access to healthy foods and make poor food choices. These people form a large proportion of the prison population, and there are concerns that insufficient attention is paid to their health. Hence, their diet tends to be poor compared with international standards of dietary adequacy, which typically are set to protect the heart, but not for optimal brain function. Thus, it has been posited that a poor diet may be a modifiable causal factor in antisocial behaviors. We tested what happened to behavior of violent young adult prisoners, 18 to 21 years, when nutrients missing from their diets were reinstated. We use food supplements as an analog of a better diet because it provided the possibility of a placebo control. On a random basis, where neither the volunteers, prison staff, nor researchers in the prison knew who was getting which type, 231 volunteers were given either placebo or real capsules containing broadly the daily requirement of vitamins, minerals, and essential fatty acids. So it was a study that was what you class, it seems to be a double-blind study, which is the best type of studies you could do where the people involved in administering the test and whatnot are not aware of what they are administering. So that means it would reduce or eliminate bias. So it would be a more legitimate study. So with that amount of bias taken out of it, you could get a more accurate result, all right? So it says here that they didn't know an essential fatty acids. So we continue. The number of proven offenses committed by each prisoner was monitored before and while taking supplements. The results was that those who received the extra nutrients committed significantly 26.3% fewer offenses compared with placebos, right? I don't know if I had mentioned before, but a placebo is just fake medication, right? So if you're doing a study on something, you would have, like if you're studying for nutrients, you would have the actual nutrients or vitamins, and then in the capsule or whatever form you're using it in, and then the placebo would be a fake one, which may not have anything in it, or might just be sugar or just a fake capsule made out of gelatin or something of the sort, right? To act as the control ingredient so that it can be compared. Now, the people taking it don't know if they are getting the actual vitamins or if they are getting the fake one, all right? That is not going to provide them with anything. So that way, you're not fooled in that sense. So you'll get a better, a more honest study. But there is also something that I'll mention as well quickly is the placebo effect, which what studies have found is that someone's mental state, just believing that they got a drug or medication or something of the sort, causes their body to respond as if they actually get it. So that happens as well, all right? But because this prison, nobody knew what was really going on, they were just giving the inmates the tablets. So it seems as if it's just volunteers and they didn't really let them know what they were volunteering for, they just volunteered, right? So it went on to say those consuming real supplements for at least 2 weeks committed 37% fewer, highly, in brackets here, they have highly statistically significant, of course, 37% is a big number, of the most serious offenses such as violence. These findings have been replicated by the Dutch Ministry of Justice. Their double-blind study, like I mentioned before, double-blind study, reported a 48% difference between groups. If these studies are widely replicated, and they need to be, we may have a simple and humane means to help reduce and prevent a significant proportion of violence and antisocial behavior. This should also work in the community because it is not about it's not about where you eat, but what you eat. Indeed, criminal justice systems are often overrepresented with ethnic minorities, but providing a more nutritious diet is never going to be discriminatory to these young people. The only risk is better health. So, having read that, it was just the abstract. We're not going to go into all the details of that article, because it's a pretty long article, right? But it clearly shows that your diet affects your behavior. That diet affects crime. Diet reduces crime. A 48% difference, right? A 48% difference. Now, over the years, I've observed many things with many people. In Trinidad and Tobago, right, some of the poorest regions have some of the most crime, right? And one of the reasons for that has a lot to do with the lack of proper nutrition. We have been groomed to believe that once you feel full, you are fine. And it's not so much about what you eat, but just once you feel full. And that is not true. The content of your meal plays a very important role and an important part of that meal. So it's not just about, I ate. It's about what you eat, right? And we need to pay more attention to that. Last week, we were looking at how weak the vegan diet is, right? I have mentioned before that when it comes to the consumption of plant-based foods would, without a shadow of a doubt, leave you nutritionally deficient. Last week, we looked at vitamin B12 deficiencies, and it was among those, especially among kids that are on vegan diets, even though they were supplementing, right? They were still deficient because the body isn't designed to get its nutrients from supplements. Supplements never existed. Supplement is a man-made thing. And we need to get our nutrients from natural sources. And that's where we have been messing up, right? We don't understand how we are to eat naturally. And because of that, we keep following advice and we keep, ignoring our natural instincts. Our natural instincts, we have a natural affinity towards the consumption of meat, right? It's just natural, right? You don't have to create a show to encourage a child to eat meat, but you have to do so to encourage a child to eat plants like spinach, like the cartoon Popeye, right? We always, we have a lot of things in Sesame Street pushing, eat your vegetables, which is a form of subconscious programming, right? Because we are not naturally designed to consume those things. So instinctually, we don't go for those things. If you want to reduce crime in a nation, in a country, you have to focus on health. If you want to reduce any problems in a country, you first have to focus on health, all right? So what we would do, we would take a short break, and then we would come right back and we would dive back into some more information, some more research, and be edified even more. All right, so I will see you all in just a few. All right, so we are back. So let me share my screen again with you all, and we will jump back into the article from last week that we were looking at, the vegan brain, plant-based diets, micronutrients, and mental health. All right, so we went through all of this, and where we stopped at would have been after the vitamin B's, where we would be coming up to iodine. All right, iodine. So it says lack of iodine, particularly in early life, stunts body and brain growth. So iodine, of course, we know off the bat, this can affect your mental health, but not just your mental health, but the health of your physical, physiological body. Iodine is a required building block in thyroid hormone, which is critical in brain development and maintenance. Iodine deficiency affects 2 billion people and is the most common preventable cause of intellectual disabilities in the world. I have so much to say on this. Most plant foods are quite low in iodine compared to many animal foods. Although vegans are generally more likely to have iodine deficiency compared to vegetarians and omnivores, iodine deficiency in the United States is uncommon due to widespread use of iodized salt. All right. Now, I would say this, we are not in the US, but there is a high prevalence of iodine deficiency. The other thing is, sometimes we just look at how much iodine, let me stop sharing the screen for a second. Sometimes we just look at how much iodine that we are consuming, right? But we are not looking at how much iodine is being utilized by the body through the bioavailability of it. Now, there's something I need to draw your attention to with regards to iodine. And, you know, some people would be buying the iodine or the iodized salt and saying, well, I'm getting in iodine, so I don't have to worry. I don't have to worry about not getting in enough iodine and it's affecting my thyroid glands. So my thyroid would still be producing the proper thyroid hormones, and therefore wouldn't have stunted growth or have any intellectual developmental issues. But there is something that we need to know, and this is what I'm going to share with you all here, and it has to do with a plant-based pesticide called Goitrogen. Now, don't get thrown off from when I use the word pesticide. When I say pesticide, plant-based pesticide, I'm not talking about a man-made pesticide. I'm talking about a pesticide that is produced by plants themselves, because plants produce dozens of pesticides to protect themselves from insects and animals that would be consuming it. Some of the ways in which it protects themselves is not for the pesticide to instantly kill, but for the pesticide to block. So look at this pesticide here that is found in plants, goitrogens, right? Goitrogens are substances that can interfere with the function of the thyroid. Thyroid dysfunction is particularly common among women, and some researchers believe that high amounts of goitrogen contained in foods may play a role. Foods like soy and cruciferous vegetables tend to be high in these substances. Perhaps all those years of forcing yourself to choke down broccoli and cauliflower were not kind to your thyroids. Now, this is something that people aren't aware of. Goitrogen is found in your green leafy vegetables, right? Your broccoli, your cauliflowers, even things like kale, and I believe in lettuce as well. So those green leafy, the things that people use in their salads. So your salads have goitrogen in it, right? Goitrogen blocks your thyroid gland from utilizing iodine. Goitrogen is a blocker of iodine absorption. So when you are there saying that I am using iodized salt, right? You're saying I am getting in iodine, but you're also consuming these green leafy vegetables, right? Which have goitrogen in it that blocks the thyroid gland from being able to utilize iodine. So you're consuming it, but you're also consuming a blocker of it. So you see what's happening there? So while you think, okay, I am getting this in, so I should be fine, you are also consuming a blocker of what you are getting in. So then you are not fine, right? Many people aren't aware of that. You look at the average meal today, almost anywhere you go, you get food and they always give you it with a side of salad, right? They always give you it with a side of salad. Salad is like mandatory. You don't have to ask for it, but you're getting it, right? And here it is, you're consuming stuff that have blockers of the nutrients that you're trying to get in from the other animal-based foods, right? Even from the iodized salt, right? Because many people aren't aware that animal-based foods have iodine in it as well, right? Some plant-based foods have iodine too, but the plant-based foods that have iodine also have the blockers of it. So it's not plant-based food and not a good source for iodine because it comes with stuff to block iodine as well. So when people see that their child, and this is where it comes back to, their child is slow in school, we just think, maybe it's just genetics. If people even know how hard it is to tamper with genetics, and usually the genetics, nothing is wrong with it. It has to do with what they call epigenetics, how the gene is expressed. And what affects gene expression is your mineral consumption. So again, your diet. So if your diet is bad, your genes could be fine, but you don't have the right nutrients for those genes to be expressed correctly. And then you would have errors, right? Something wouldn't be replicated correctly, something wouldn't be copied correctly, the information from the DNA wouldn't be transferred correctly, and then you have developmental errors taking place. And then we just summed it up as the child is slow, the child is Down syndrome, the child is autistic, right? Being totally unaware that the child was deficient of nutrients during the early stages in their life. And a lot of these early stages can also start in the womb as well. It's not always after birth. There is before. I always tell people, if you're looking to start a family, you want to focus on your health first. We have to remember that a child is an organism that is living inside and developing inside another organism, which means that that child is going to pull nutrients from the organism that it is living off of, which is the child's mother. That means the parent has to consume the right foods in the right quantity so that when the child is requiring the nutrients for development, that they have enough, right? So that the child can develop correctly. If the mother does not have enough, guess what? The child is going to pull. Now, the child might pull enough for the child's development, but then it can start to affect the mother, because the mother is now going to run into nutritional deficiencies because the child is pulling those nutrients because the mom only have enough for the child, right? And then what are some of those conditions that could affect the mother after the birth of the child? You have postpartum depression. And some people just assume that, it's just something that just happens to people. None of these things just happen, right? They don't just happen. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction, right? So postpartum depression is not just something that just happens. It's because a child, if you want to call it like that. So let me put it this way. It might sound a little bad, but I'll say it anyway. If you are nutritionally deficient and you have a child, that child to your body is a parasite, because a parasite feeds off of other organisms. So that child is feeding off of the mom and robbing the mom of nutrients because the mother did not consume the right foods, so that she is now nutritionally deficient and that child is pulling those nutrients. So then the child might get their full amount of nutrients, but the mother would be left deficient. And then you have mental health issues, depression, postpartum depression. And then you might see the mother neglect the child. And then we start saying, oh, what's wrong with that mother? We need to jail them. See, we have to start looking at the full picture. And when we start looking at the full picture, we're going to see things in a different light. We will start to treat people in a different manner because we understand the situation from a more holistic standpoint, right? And that's how we deal with situations in society today. That's how we should deal with situations in society today, but we don't. We don't, right? Now let's look at it this way. If the mother and the child, well, the mother is so nutritionally deficient that the child is also nutritionally deficient, the child is going to born with deficiencies. The mother would end up with deficiencies as well, could suffer from postpartum depression, and the child could come up with learning disabilities, right? The child could come out with physical disabilities. I don't know if you're all seeing the applications of all that I am saying, right? I am explaining to you all how disabilities in children come about. Because many people don't know, and they just simply sum it up as this is just a test from God, not understanding, right, that there is so much more to it, right? So it's so deeper, it's so much deeper than that. These are things that can actually be prevented if we knew how to eat better, right? These are things that actually could be prevented. But society today we seem to put the focus on health on the back burner. So in Trinidad and Tobago, we have a high crime issue, right? And how do they always try to approach that high crime issue? They approach it from the standpoint of more policing, more policing, more policing, more policing. You know what's funny? I'm going to share with you all an article here, right? And you will see how funny this is. So we want to police more to try to reduce crime. But look at some of the headings in our news. National Security Agency officers struggling with mental health issues. So the people that we are trying to use to reduce crime, they are battling with mental health issues. All right, let me see if I could just skim through it quickly. National Security Agency officers are struggling with mental health issues. They are grappling to deal with anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorders, and other mental disorders. And while some get the help they need, others have fallen through the cracks, hurting themselves and their loved ones. The situation involving mental health issues has been present in the service for some time, but is worsening. Recent incidents have fanned fears of a growing mental health crisis among National Security Agency officers. There is now an appeal for them to get urgent help. According to the officers of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, and the Trinidad and Tobago Prison Service, the issues existed long before the pandemic. However, COVID-19 exacerbated them. They said in most instances, officers seeking mental health assistance are sent to employee welfare departments that lack the requisite qualifications and training to effectively counsel officers. Yes, the majority of employees are overstressed and suffer from mental illnesses. But the crazy thing is, depending on your rank, that's how you'll be treated. We have a welfare department that is not trained to deal with mental issues. The high-ranking officers, however, get to go outside for treatment and the organization covers the cost, said a Coast Guard officer for more than 13 years of service. No, there are no adequate avenues to discuss or seek help to our mental state. The officers want help and are willing to get help, but send us by trained professionals, not a department that you call welfare, where you just put a priest and someone with 3 levels and a certificate to counsel. And this, came up because in April 16th, 47-year-old Coast Guard officer Kester Williams shot himself and his wife, Sharia David, dead. Right, and it had meanwhile, since March 2020, at least 3 police officers died by suicide. I'll just stop there for a bit and bring it back to you all here. And again, as you see, the focus again is not on nutrition. It's just looking at, counseling. You know what's funny? If anybody is familiar with the budget of the Defense Force, I believe that they had a 17 million budget for food. And over the past couple of years, that budget for food was slashed from 17 million down to 4 million. Massive slash. That's a massive slash. So these are the people that are supposed to be protecting and defending the country, the nation. And nutrition is so much on the back burner that they just slash a large sum, right? About 70% of their food budget, right? And it's like, oh, it's nothing because nutrition is not important. They don't see the connection between eating right and mental stability. So we're looking at violence in schools. How are we going to fix that if people aren't eating right? We don't emphasize proper nutrition in the household. So how are we going to fix school violence? How are we going to fix violence in the community? How are we going to fix violence among national security officers while we keep turning a blind eye to nutrition, right? So imagine how I feel. Knowing all this information for years, I've been trying to get this information and stuff out. But who listens? Who listens? Who listens? Depression is something I don't know. If I even feel something that even remotely feel like depression, which I think probably happened once, and within minutes I realized, okay, I have some deficiencies. Let me see about it one time. Right? So I dealt with it there and then, and I never allowed myself to drop with my nutrients again. Right? But many aren't open to such. It's already difficult when it comes to people opening up with getting help, going for counseling and so forth. That's difficult for many because we come from the Caribbean where superstition supersedes, right? So you say, well, you're going by a therapist or counselor, they automatically class you as a madman. A madman is just a nutritionally deficient man. That's how I see it. Right? That's how I see it. A madman is just somebody that's suffering mental health issues. I have read testimonies of people that have been on same type of diet that I have been on. And to read where somebody said they used to be autistic and no longer are, that's things that you don't hear. You don't hear those things regularly. Somebody saying, I used to be autistic, I no longer am. All right. So it's interesting. It's interesting. And we need to be a little more conscious with the impact that our diet has on our mental health. And we don't see that connection, right? So people might just say, what I'm pushing and promoting, that humans are carnivores, which we are, right? Like I mentioned, soon after I finish this whole mental health thing, I will go into that and explain that and show that from a biological standpoint, right? That we are actually carnivores and we are not omnivores, right? And explain in details the difference between carnivores, omnivores, and herbivores, and what class them as such, right? And I would also share with you on another occasion, one of the few studies that it have on the carnivore diet, anecdotal study, self-reported, but the results of it was more than any results of any other study ever done, right? the positive results. So all it would take is for us to get back on the right track of eating the foods that we are biologically designed to consume, which I like to call, instead of saying carnivore diet, species-specific diet, right? Species-specific diet is basically, for humans, carnivore diet, right? But I like to use that wording because people kind of have this way, and they hear carnivore diet, they just think it's just this swap, and then, but most people don't even know what's the true meaning of a carnivore. But these are things that I would explain further. All right. All right. So we just have about 5 minutes remaining. So I would use this next 5 minutes to encourage you all, for those that are interested in learning more, right, and in having their nutrition guided by me. You can sign up. You can do a consultation, and you can have my join onto my nutritional coaching program. right? I have a new health coaching program that I will be starting next month, and that would be via Zoom, right? It's on a monthly subscription basis, which would be $200 per month. And we will meet on Zoom where you can ask your questions and so forth, and we addressing it. And it's all about health and education as well. So you'll be getting that guidance, all right? So I would encourage you all to look into that, try to see if you could get onto that program. You might see the ad running on your social media networks and so forth, all right? Also want to encourage you all that I also have physical fitness classes online as well via Zoom also. So there are online training options, right? There's also options for training in person as well, based on your location. And there is the aquatic exercise program also, all right? So that's a good option there. I try to be a one-stop stop, right? So you could have your issues, health issues, diseases and stuff reversed, and you can get in exercise and education as well, all right? Because, you know, as the saying goes, if you give a man a fish, you feed him for a day. But if you teach a man to fish, you feed him for a lifetime, right? So that's the angle that I try to push with regards to health. That's why I am called a holistic health and fitness expert, right? Holistic, we encompass everything, not just sticking to one thing or one aspect, all right? And to explore avenues, even breathing techniques, all these things. Because that's also another topic. We breathe in an incorrect manner, and that has a lot to do with the body being in a more toxic state. Right? Most people aren't aware that your exhale is supposed to be longer than your inhale, right? But that's because their systems are so toxic that their exhales are short because they are holding in more carbon dioxide, which increases acidity in the bloodstream, right? So there are so much things that many people aren't aware of with regards to health and fitness, but this is why we're all here, right? We're here to learn, to grow, to understand the human body, all right? And to live better lives, longer lives, healthier lives. You know, your health is your wealth. And regardless of what people might think, there is no wealth without health. You could be a trillionaire. You could be a trillionaire, and if you don't have health, you still have nothing. Right? So it's not just about how much money you make. Many people have sacrificed their health in the pursuit of finances, and they lost their lives, and they still never truly get to enjoy those finances that they sacrifice their health for. Right? We're all familiar with Steve Jobs, who died of pancreatic cancer. Right? Pancreatic cancer, something that I know how to reverse, how to even avoid it. Right? But, you know, the pursuit of wealth outshined his health, and didn't truly get to enjoy that wealth, right? So sometimes I would wish if people had the opportunity to spend a day in my body and basically feel how I feel, right? And a lot of people would not go back to eating plants because when they hear I don't eat nothing plant-based at all. And then when they feel how I feel, they would stay away. They would stay away in no time. They would stay away in a heartbeat. All right. So folks, that's all for today. So I would see you all next week, Wednesday. and we would continue to be edified. We would continue to expand our knowledge. And yeah, we'll continue on the topic of mental health and nutrition. And let's make changes to our lives. Let's make changes. So that's it for me. I'm Chetwayo Laborde, holistic health and fitness coach, owner of Chetwayo's Fitness Enterprise. And I must say thanks again for having me, and I will see you all next week. Take care.